Hello again, everyone. Hope you had an awesome possum weekend. And as we kick off a new week, today I want to celebrate the 24th annual Pet Sitters Week. I want to talk to you about professional pet sitters. They are such an important part of our world, and I want you to think of them as really a huge part of your pet's health and safety team. Professional pet sitters are your dog or your cats or even your bird, your gecko, your fishes, whomever you cohabitate with. They are your animal's second best friends because obviously you should be there first. But professional pet sitters are right up there along with you because they're the ones that care for your pets in your absence. And they're also people who are well educated in the animal world, who we can turn to for advice about our pets. They may not be an animal everything because they're specializing in the care, but you know, they're the people that are in the know that you can turn to get a recommendation for a trainer or for a groomer, or to ask advice, or to at least give you a lead to so that you can find the information you need to know. A survey that was done recently by Pet Sitters International showed that 2/3 of pet owners actually have used a professional pet sitter within the last year. So this is our opportunity to celebrate these people who work year-round for us. And I do mean year-round. When we're off having different holidays, vacations, time off, that's when our pet sitters are hitting into full gear. You may have a pet sitter that works for you basically on a daily basis, that may walk your dog or check on your cats during the day while you're at work. But when you're on vacation, it's the professional pet sitter that you call on, who isn't getting that time off, who isn't getting that holiday with their family. So, this is a week that we really need to think about them, celebrate them. If you don't have one, I'd love for you to research one and get to know them before you need it. That's just so very important. I have so many things to say, and I just want to try to keep it in some kind of order here. But let's start with the word professional pet sitter to begin with. I know a lot of times when you need to go away, or you're just going to be gone for the afternoon and you want somebody to walk the dog, you think it might be a nice gesture to hire the kid down the street. And I have nothing against the kid down the street. But remember, your dog, your cat, or whatever animal you share your life with is your child, your fur baby, or your feathered baby, or your scaled baby. And you want to make sure that this person does more than just love animals. Certainly, we want a professional pet sitter to care very much and very deeply and to love animals, but you need somebody much more than just loving pets is not enough. You want to have the peace of mind that whatever eventuality happens in your absence, that this person can handle it, that this person is responsible, that they're going to show up, that they're not going to get, a call from their friend to go play ball or go to a concert or do something else and flake on taking care of your pet. You want to make sure this person has all sorts of qualifications that I'm going to talk about in a moment, because nowadays, between apps and online services, there are just so many ways people can sign up and join and refer to themselves as a professional pet sitter. Actually, that can happen in any industry, in any job. It's just very easy to create a banner, to create a business card, and say you're in business. So it's up to you to be the advocate for your pets, to really find out if this person has the qualifications and the ability to think on the spot and handle whatever comes their way. So I've already talked to you about, these people need to be acknowledged and celebrated and just appreciated because they're the ones that aren't getting the time off, aren't getting the holidays. They love your pet, but it's about more than just loving them. There are several pet sitting organizations out there. You've often heard me talk about Pet Sitters International, who I'm a huge fan of. and I speak at their conferences regularly. There's the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters that do an awesome job. I'm getting more and more acquainted with those people as well. And there's Pet Sittingology, who I'm learning about too. So there are other organizations out there, but what I'm saying is one of the stipulations on my part is that your professional pet sitter belongs to some organization, that it has a connection, that I shouldn't say it, that person or that company has a connection beyond just their company and your street or your town, that they're really in the know and learning about cutting edge techniques and some of the other things I'm going to be talking about. That's just so, so very important. I came across somebody recently who referred to themselves as a professional pet sitter, and you know, me being the pet safety crusader, one of the first things that just slipped off my lips was, do you know pet first aid? And the response was, well, I'm you know, not that big of a company yet. I'm not able to do things along those lines. Well, excuse me, but you know, if you don't know pet first aid, there's no way you're going to ever care for my pet. It's just one of those things that if you're going to be in a business or going to be in an industry, you have to have a certain level of education, knowledge, credentials under your belt before you can even put the professional category in front of your name. And it's just, you know, I think it's irresponsible as an individual, let alone a company, not to have some of the education and knowledge. Hey, Vicki, so nice to have you joining us today. So one of the things I would like you to do is you can certainly go to petsit.com, Pet Sitters International's website, and I know they have a list of important questions you should ask when you're interviewing your potential pet sitter. Yes, you need to interview your potential pet sitter. You don't just find their name online or in a book, and when you're ready to go out of town, tell them that the key is under the mat for them to take care of your pet. That is one of the biggest mistakes you can possibly make. I recently had this incident in our own neighborhood. I was coming home from an outing, and it was kismet. It was just, you know, the right time. I was there at the right moment. But as I was coming down the street, I saw a car in front of a house that I didn't recognize, and I saw a woman running around the house that I didn't recognize. And at just about the same time, I saw the little dog that belonged to that house running out into the street. Well, fortunately, I was able to stop the car. And when I realized the dog had actually run under my car, you know, I certainly wasn't going to move another step, but I got out of the car, and the dog, who I had met before but hadn't really become familiar with, turned over on its back, showed me her belly, and allowed me to pick her up. So, you know, I was grateful for that much. But long story short, when I took the dog to the house, I learned that that was a pet sitter that had come. That was the person I didn't recognize that was running around the house. And that was her first moment there at the house. The family had already left on their vacation. They had left her the key at some point, but she had never met the dogs ahead of time. And when she opened the front door to go in, the one dog went sailing out the front door. So these are the kind of things you just can't ever allow to have happen. I was lucky I was there, that the little dog allowed me to pick him up and return it to the house. But that dog could have been out, you know, 2 streets away, out on a highway, could have been lost forever, or even worse. So there are so many things you need to think about, but that you absolutely need to interview that pet sitter. You need to make sure that you like that person, that you develop a good rapport, but even more important than you liking that person, that your dog or your cat likes that person. I just can't emphasize that enough. And that person, or I should say your pet, needs to get to know that person before the first time they're going to come to visit and actually pet sit. Whether that means overnight or just feeding and taking out for a walk. Also, you want to talk to this person about things like, to prevent from what I just mentioned happening, having the animal escape. You want to talk to them about what I call like an airlock system. Maybe you'll have the person go in your garage door, put the garage door down, and then open the door to the house and enter that way, so that the animal can't run outside immediately. Maybe you have a way for them to enter through your backyard fence or gate, And then when that gate is closed, you can enter the house. So if the animal should run out of the house, at least he's in that fenced yard. So it seems like such a no-brainer, but if we haven't thought about this ahead of time, disasters can happen. So do think about, and compile a list of things you'd want to ask this potential pet sitter ahead of time to make sure they're going to do the best job for your pet, that you're going to have the peace of mind you need, that that pet is going to be happy that you come home, but not so overjoyed that they never, that it was a bad experience with that pet sitter. Ask, the pet sitter, and, you may have to go through a few of them to find the appropriate person for you. And it doesn't mean that the first couple won't even have the best qualifications, but for whatever reason, there just isn't that rapport between you or between the pet. There are some amazing pet sitters out there, but some specialize in dogs, some specialize in cats, some specialize in birds, some across the board can deal with a lot of animals. So you want to find, and especially if you have multiple pets in your house, you're going to need to find somebody to handle multiple species. So first of all, I would ask the pet sitter if they have the proper business license. You want to make sure that everything's on the up and up and that they have the proper one for the city or the state that you live in. If they're going to visit in your house, that may not be as big of an issue, but especially because some pet sitters do a little bit of boarding in their own homes as well, or might take your pet there for a period of time. Make sure that they have all the proper authorization in place to do that. You also want to make sure they have proof of, clear proof of criminal history. You want to make sure there's nothing shady in their background check. And you may not do that background check yourself per se, but that's why it's important to get a pet sitter who's insured and bonded, that they've gone through the process and that there's, a company there behind them justifying their not their qualifications, but that their background history is good. The insurance part is also always, helpful, because say something does happen, and I mean the best pet sitter could leave the water running, or a leak could happen during their, their watch or something. So you want to make sure that, everything in your household is going to be protected as well. But it's so important that you just have this person checked out, because taking on a position or getting in the pet sitting industry really isn't very difficult. Like we were talking about before, it's easy to get a business card or a banner or come up with a name and all. But that's why you're having this interview and you're finding out a little bit more about the person, their rapport with your pet. Ask if they have references. There's probably no better recommendation than somebody who has used their services. I want to know what the person who left their furry child in this other person's care, what their experience was like. Was the dog fine afterwards? Was the cat not hiding in a corner? Does it look like the animals were fed and that they were able to go out and, everything fell into place, that they got their medications on time? So getting those recommendations is so important. Another thing that, qualifies a person as a professional pet sitter is, are they going to use a pet sitting services agreement or contract of some sorts? And you may think, why do I need a contract? Somebody's going to come over, they're going to take my dog out twice a day. I'll be back in 3 days. Why do I need a contract? It's just so important on so many levels, but mostly it just really shows an professionalism, that they've taken the initiative to really set up a business, that they're treating this as a business, that it's not just like, oh yeah, sure, I can come check on your dog, that they're taking it seriously. You want to know that the fees are spelled out, that there won't be anything unexpected. You want to know how many times they're going to visit, for how long each time. Just every degree or level of their service is spelled out, and that's what you want in a contract. You want things in there that, like, God forbid, what if something does happen to your pet while you're away? Maybe it's a simple little cut paw, or maybe it's something more serious. How is the pet sitter supposed to handle that? Have you left a credit card on file? Does your vet have a notarized letter from you saying that this person can go ahead and request the services? It's Murphy's Law that, something happens, after veterinary hours, when you're home alone, or when you're not even there, and when the pet is in the pet sitter's care. So don't leave anything up in the air like, oh, nothing's going to happen, it'll be fine. Get everything spelled out. What do I always say in my disaster preparedness? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So don't fail your pet. Make sure you're really finding a professional, and hopefully the pet sitters are going to come with the answers, and they may be sharing this information before you're even asking the questions. But I just, want to put that out there that you should have some questions to ask. Ask them if they're in any kind of certification program or if they get continuous training, because there are always new techniques about handling pets and caring for pets. If you have a kitty or a dog that needs insulin injections, do they know how to give those? How would they give your pet a pill if he needs it? Hopefully they're not going to, put him in a half Nelson or whatever that wrestling hold is and just, shove the pill down their throat. Hopefully they have a kinder, gentler way of doing this. Does the pet sitter keep regular hours? It just shows that it's a business rather than a hobby, and that is just so important when somebody is caring for your pet. You may not reach them every time you call. There may be an answering service or a message machine, but as long as they get back to you within a reasonable amount of time, that's great. Some businesses are small. Some are just one person. Some may have a couple, and if they're out doing dog sits or cat visits, they can't be answering the phone. You certainly don't want them answering the phone and taking care of business and appointments during the 30 minutes or whatever that they're supposed to be spending with your pet. So hopefully you'll understand that, you may get a message machine at times, but as long as the person is getting back to you with the information you're looking for. You also want to know how much notice they require. It's good when pet sitters have a calendar and a schedule and things are booking in advance, but it's also great if you sometimes, might have a last minute thing like you're at work and you can't get home at lunch today. Does that pet sitter have somebody on their team that maybe could get there quickly? But once again, that only works if they already know your pet and your pet knows them. I mean, think about it. If somebody just suddenly came into your house, you had never met them, and they were, going to put a leash on you and take you out, you wouldn't be too happy about it. You want to make sure the pet understands that this is a friendly person and that person is supposed to be there doing things. You also want to check if the person or the company, the professional pet sitter, has a website. Some people may now think, oh, I don't really need a website, but you know what? It is the thing. It's the way companies are judged these days. I have a very dear friend in a totally different line of business who is rebelling against doing a website, but I think she's starting to understand that it's just the way times have changed, and if you don't continue along and get with the program, you get left behind. So look and see if they do have a website. I know, some companies have more money to spend on advertising than others, but it's important that they have a presence because the website is the representation of that company, and it should be a priority because it does set the image, it does set the pace for what that company is all about. You're going to also want to know, and that is part of the contractor agreement, what the average time they spend with your pet. If you have a kitty and you just want somebody to come in a couple of times a day and check on her, make sure the food is full, the water is clean, that's one thing. Cats do require a little less attention, but I would never, ever do less than one visit per day for a cat because anything can happen in that time. Pet Safety Crusaders here, mind is already going to, the kitty getting caught in the blind cords or, something falling on her, or just if she's not drinking because there's no activity in her house and she doesn't have her normal routine going, she could be getting dehydrated. She could have a fur ball that she isn't able to cough up. So there's just so many reasons not to go away for a long weekend and not have your cat looked in on. Even if you've got the food and the water in the litter box, you need a pair of eyes to check in and make sure everything is okay. You also want to make sure this pet sitter has a contingency plan. What if, she comes down with the flu, or what if he broke his leg? Does he have anybody else on his staff, or are you going to be left in the lurch? And if you're already gone, what's going to happen to your pets while this person can't get to them? So make sure they have those kind of contingency plans, as well as, should a disaster strike. And I know this is something I've talked with a lot of pet sitters about, and they are just so diligent at getting on this, because we know hurricanes happen every year. Fires in some parts of the country happen every year. What if they can't physically get to a certain neighborhood? Do they have a plan? Do they have a way of contacting you to let you know? So I know some of you may think I'm just overwhelming your mind with information that you don't want to think about, that you're going to go away for the weekend, somebody's going to walk the dog, somebody's going to make sure the cat has food, and that's the end of it. But that in-home interview where the pet sitter comes and meets your pet is just of vital importance to me, and I hope it is to all of you. You want to see the way they react. Do they get down on the floor and play with your dog, or are they kind of standoffish? Right away, that would tell me something, and the hackles on the back of my neck would go up, and I wouldn't hire that person. So these are a few things to look about, think about ahead of time. Also, you want to know how the pet sitter is going to confirm that you return back home. If it's a pet sitter that, just does walks every day and you come home from work and all is good, that may be fine. But, especially if you're a person living alone, you just always want to know that that person, that pet sitter, that professional pet sitter, is there looking out for your pet. And what if you didn't return home that day? And that dog needed to go out again. I mean, obviously I'm concerned about you too, what happened to you, but it's just so important, whether it's a daily visit or if you're gone on a vacation, that the pet sitter does in some way check in with you to make sure you return. A flight could have been delayed and that dog could be sitting there with crossed legs for hours on end. So you want to make sure that this is the person that has the initiative, that checks in with you to make sure you've returned, or that then wants to, find you down, so to speak, or actually just come and give another visit to your pet to make sure they are taken care of until you return home. So many pet sitters do wonderful things these days. They take videos of your pet or pictures so that they show you that all is well. I know of one professional pet sitter whose client said, well, in addition to the other pets you see here, we have a cat, and you're never going to see this cat. This cat's going to always hide when you're here, but just, make sure there's food and water and a clean litter box for it. Well, lo and behold, that pet sitter was able to snap a picture of himself with that cat, and it just amazed the family that, he built the rapport, he took the time and did everything right, and the cat actually came out. So those are kind of like those special moments that let you know you found the right pet sitter. I've also had pet sitters along the years that have actually determined something not quite right with the pet and have encouraged the clients to get quick veterinary care, and in many cases have actually saved that pet's life. Now, I never suggest a pet sitter diagnose an issue unless they're actually a veterinarian or an RVT at the very least. But if you've gone through pet first aid and other animal care handling and training, you learn to look for signs and symptoms of things that aren't quite right. And the more you get to know an individual pet and know what's normal for him, the more quickly you can tell when something isn't wrong. And simply because we're with our pets every day, it's like when they get older and they're starting to be the graying of the brows and the muzzle, we don't notice those subtle changes. But a pet sitter that isn't with them 24/7 and hopefully is somebody that's really tuning in, putting on that new fresh pair of eyeballs every time they see the animal, might really key in on something important. So pet sitters truly are part of your pet's health and safety team. And like I said, they should be your pet's second best friend. So make sure there are no surprises, that you've had that pre-interview, that your pet seems to really like the pet sitter, that the pet sitter has a good rapport with your pet, that you have everything in writing, that you think about that airlock so that your pet can't escape, that there's a way for the pet sitter to safely get in the house without the dog dashing out the front door or the back door or whatever it might be. Or it could be a cat as well. And just think of it during this week while we are celebrating the professional pet sitter who doesn't get Christmas and New Year's and summer vacation off like all of us, because they are there for our pets when we are enjoying ourselves. Bill, Paul, thank you for joining in as well. I hope a lot of you can catch this in the replay, and just remember that this is Professional Pet Sitters Week, and make sure you have one for peace of mind for you and for the health and safety of your pet. See you guys on Thursday, but also if you have the opportunity, I will be doing a Facebook Live on Friday with Beth Stultz of Pet Sitters International, and we'll be talking a little bit more specifically about pet first aid and the professional pet sitter. Take care, guys, and have an awesome possum day. Bye-bye.